Good morning, Volendam. How's everyone this morning? Good. Well, welcome, welcome. I'm assuming many of you, was everybody at the show last night? Yes. Which was your draw this morning? I guess it wasn't me. Um, well, welcome, welcome. We're starting the first of three sea days here on our tip to our next port of call. And of course, without further ado, I'd like to bring. Yeah, this. Can we get this? Something's not. Can you? There we go. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't think so either, but I know I just have a big booming voice anyway, but now I don't have to scream. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Pingxin Xu. Come on out. Let's give him a hand for after doing two shows, coming up so early. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
That should be on, I think.
Yes.
Yep, it is. Well, good. Well, thank you for coming here this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course. Well, I think everybody was enthralled with your performance last night. Yes, what did you think of the show, folks?
Thank you.
And more importantly, I'd never seen after a show people rush the stage like that. They wanted to. Everybody wanted to see your instrument. Now, let's for a second talk. Where did this particular dulcimer come from? What's the history of this particular instrument?
The dulcimer has a history of over 1,000 years. It is believed to be originally from the ancient kingdom of Byzantine.
And how did you acquire this particular dulcimer?
Also, it has a long history of migration from Byzantine to Europe and from Europe to Asia, to Australia and to America. This dulcimer is what I bought in Beijing about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. Now, do you have to? Obviously, you can't just go to your local guitar store or something and pick up a dulcimer. So, do you have to special order them, or are there stores that are there different? I'm assuming there's different qualities of them and.
Yeah, surprisingly, dulcimer is mass-produced in China.
Oh, okay.
It is, yeah. So not every shop, but some of the instruments shops do carry the dulcimer.
Now, is there, when you talked about yesterday, you started playing when you were 6 years old.
Yes.
Was it a simpler type of instrument, or was it the same sort of dulcimer that we see here today?
You're right. It was a much simpler form of dulcimer. Very small, about less than half of the capacity of this dulcimer. And that was the dulcimer I started with.
Do you, like when you play piano or when you learn piano, there's always like your first song that you play, like usually it's something like Mary Had a Little Lamb for us, or like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Do you remember the first song that you learned on the dulcimer?
I do. That was a study of the scales in G major, because G major is the most frequently used key on the dulcimer. Wow. Yeah, simple scale.
And you said that was your father's choice. How strict was he as far as like your practicing went, or what was his goal for you? Did he want you to become a professional dulcimer player? Was that his hope?
Oh, the consideration was quite practical, because that was during the height of the Cultural Revolution in China. So it was chaotic in the society. Children ran wild. A lot of children run wild. My father didn't want me to get the bad influence outside, so he wanted me to keep. He wanted to keep me inside with something. So dulcimer was his choice.
Now, how many days on average when you were growing up would you say you practiced the dulcimer?
I practiced.
How many hours a day usually, or how long a day or a week?
At first, I remember he came back home for lunch, and so he asked me to do 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon. And my grandmother was what my father asked to monitor me when he was away for work.
So pretty strict.
My father was, but when I was little, I didn't realize when my father was strict. I thought it was everybody had the similar father, but now I realize my father was a quite strict one.
So what are some, in your introduction, I talked about you have traveled the world pretty much and shared the stage with the great Luciano Pavarotti. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience?
It was a festival in Langochten in northern. Strict speaking, we performed for the same festival in 1995 in northern Wales.
Where Mr. Mark Newsom is from. And what are some of the highlights of your career? Could you talk about a little bit of the experiences that you've had performing the dulcimer?
A big change was when I was 13. My father, that was at the time, there not so much information from the official channel. That was at the end of the Cultural Revolution. And my father heard some friends say the Central Conservatory of Music in China, that's the top conservatory still today, started to resume taking in students after many years of break during the Cultural Revolution. And they said they set up several locations to take the exams. And one location was as close as 60 kilometers south of my hometown. So my father managed to get the exact location of that place. He took me there. We had no idea about the national standard. It's a very prestigious music institution. And that year, they took only one dulcimer student nationwide. And to everybody's surprise, I was the one to be picked. And because I was from a small town, I had never learned the dulcimer from a famous or a good or professional player. My father was an amateur. He's an engineer by trade, but he plays several instruments. So that's a big change, because almost everyone taken into that conservatory will become a professional.
So at the age of 13 is when you
I went to
this.
Beijing to study, about 900 kilometers away.
So you left home when you were 13?
Yes, it's a boarding school.
How was that experience for you?
A little scary. I remember on my way to the train station from my home, it was about 10 minutes walk. On my way, I realized, from now on, I'm independent, basically, because I only got to come home twice a year, once for summer vacation, once for winter vacation. So, but it was fun afterwards with the other kids living in a dorm. We had about 7, 8 boys in one big room, bunk beds, up in 2 levels, the bunk beds. And it was a lot of activities that took over the homesickness,
Sure. And how long did you study there in Beijing at that school?
9 years. 5 years for the middle school level to get a certificate, and 4 years for first degree level to get a bachelor. Actually, I also did 2 years of master, but that was after my graduation and after I was kept in the school as a teacher. So I also did 2 years. So 9 plus 2, 11 years in the conservatory. Wow. Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, when did you start traveling, and how did that happen, that you were able to travel? Did you travel with an orchestra, or were you always a solo performer, or how did that work?
I have been mostly a solo performer, but on the ships we have, residential orchestra. My first overseas tour was when I was 19 to West Germany. At that time, it was still two Germanys, so West Germany. The reason I'm on the ships was because at that time I was living in Britain about 14 years ago. Some agents, they saw me, so he started to book me.
So they contacted you about that?
Yes. I remember I was away for 4 days in Switzerland, Zurich. When I came back, and he left a message in my answer machine. So that's how we started for the ships 14 years ago.
Now, do you have, is there a performance, particularly memorable performance, or something that sticks out as perhaps the highlight of your career? Of course, other than performing here on the Volendam.
For public performances, I think that festival was quite a big venue in Langochland, about 5,000 people. Otherwise, basically, I treat every performance the same way. Even sometimes, we had a light audience, about 50. Sometimes when the weather was rough or the shape was small, I feel very similarly.
That's great.
Stage.
I think that's the sign of a true performer. Yeah.
Yeah, I only have to concentrate on music.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, I was impressed by. Now, I know the dulcimer from where, like in North Carolina, it's used in like bluegrass music sometimes, or it's used as its own, like Appalachian mountains. They use it there very differently. But I was really impressed with a couple things. First, with the dynamics of the dulcimer, how you were able to really dynamically get it to be so soft and so loud, and in dulcimer, is there music specifically written for dulcimer, and does it have such as piano music, like symbols as forte or pianissimo, or is that your own artistic take on music?
Yeah, most of the pieces I play here are not played by any other dulcimer players. The dulcimer has a very small standing repertoire, so I had to arrange a lot of numbers from other instruments to play on the dulcimer. As for expression of the dynamic range, it's also personal thing. The training and also the experience on stage helps me grow musically, year by year. Yeah.
And another thing that I was fascinated by was how it sort of, to me, I mean, depending on the selection you were playing, it really almost took on the qualities of that instrument, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with, to your credit, but like when you were playing Under the Sea, you could certainly hear the steel drum kind of in that, and then when you were playing that other piece, it sounded a little like a mandolin at times, and it was very interesting to me how it seemed to, and then when you were playing the dragon boat, it sounded like a very traditional Chinese instrument to me. That was just fascinating to me how it did sound, and I'm sure again that's to your credit what you're doing, but it was amazing how it seemed to take on these qualities.
I try to be as close as to that style when I perform something from that style. Yeah.
Now another thing I was wondering is, have you ever been in performance? The strings look fairly thick. First of all, what are the strings made of? Steel. So has there ever been an occasion where a string has broken during a performance?
Yeah, during the years, all kinds of accidents happen on stage. All kinds.
What are some good ones?
Okay. It's like, I remember about 13 years ago, just about 1 year into my starting on the ships, because the sea was rough, I took some pills. Then my muscles became so relaxed. My hammer flew out. That's why I always have an extra now on the side in case. And strings broken many times, multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
wondering if
have to-
the hammer flew out, because there was, especially like the William Tell overture, they were going so fast you couldn't even see, and I thought, well, I wonder if anyone has just gone and like, popped somebody in the forehead or something, or the top of the hammer flew off or something. I don't know,
Yeah, it
because
happened
I wonder what the
Yeah,
mile per hour speed of those hammers is.
good guess. One time, the head of the hammer
Yeah.
flew out.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
Became detached from the body of the hammer and flew out.
Now, how often do you have to replace those hammers and replace those strings?
Now, because I practice more smartly than when I was younger. So I don't break my hammers and strings as much as before, like 20 years ago. I forgot the question.
Well, I
sorry.
was just how. So, if you're practicing, well and safely with that, how often would you have to replace those? Like, how long is the average life of a dulcimer hammer?
Okay, the hammers can last. I remember the longest one I had lasted about 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but normally from my usage, it breaks every year. I have to change 1 or 2 pairs. Yeah.
Now, do you tune the dulcimer yourself?
Definitely.
And how often do you have to tune it?
For fine tuning, and each time I practice or perform, even between 2 shows last night. After the first show, I came up stage and to fine tune the dulcimer because 1 or 2 strings were out of tune from the first performance.
Now, where is the tuning mechanism?
It's on the right-hand side,
Okay.
covered by that one with calligraphy.
Okay.
That's underneath. That's the tuning. I can open it up and tune
Okay.
strings.
And the calligraphy, or the calligraphy on here, is that say something, or is that the notes, or what is that?
It's poem.
Oh, okay.
Poem. Yeah.
Was that your personal choice, or did that come?
No, I just bought the dulcimer that's already there.
Okay. And do you have would you say is your favorite piece to play on the dulcimer? Or style of music that you like? Because you did so many styles, last night. Do you have a particular favorite?
I like a variety, really. If for a period of time I was doing too much from one particular style, I want to have a change. I think, like what I like to listen, the same thing. I don't want to listen to any particular style for too long. So a variety is good also for...
Well, I thought you had a great variety in your concert last night. I thought you really covered so many great bases, and it was so interesting. So let's open the floor to some questions. Anyone have some questions particularly? Yes, ma'am. So the question is, what type of wood is the sound box?
The frame is made of hardwood. It can be of different types of hardwood. And the sound box is made of soft wood. It can be pine or similar material.
Yes. Yes, sir.
How long have you been working on cruise ships?
14 years. I first started. And my very first ship, very first company, the first company was Holland America. And the first ship was Vodm, 1997.
Yes, other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is the dulcimer ever used as part of a symphony orchestra?
And let me just repeat, just because we do televise this, so that's why I'm not that I don't think he can't hear you. But the question was, is the dulcimer ever used as part of a symphony orchestra?
Dulcimer first appeared in symphony orchestra in the 19th century. And some Hungarian composer like Liszt and Bartók used the dulcimer in their symphony numbers. Afterwards, some contemporary composers occasionally use the dulcimer in their numbers, but dulcimer has never become a standard member in the symphony orchestra.
Yes, other questions? Yes, sir.
If I were to purchase one, how much would it cost, and who would be the key manufacturer?
So the question was, if you were to purchase one, how much would the cost be, and who would be the key manufacturer of the dulcimer?
The cost of the dulcimer starts a few $100s for the smaller ones upwards. So the more expensive ones can run up to a few $1,000s, depending on the size, the complexity of the dulcimer, and the maker of the dulcimer. Dulcimer is very localized. In, like you said, in America, you can find some dulcimers. They will be slightly different from the one I play. Also in Eastern Europe, you'll find different types of dulcimers. In England, you find another different type of dulcimer. So basically, dulcimer, you can find slight variations between countries. And so it's very hard to say which manufacturer is the. There's no internationally recognized manufacturer of dulcimer, depending what style of dulcimer you want. And say in China, the one in Beijing is quite a big one, I would say.
So there's no like Stradivarius of dulcimers or something.
Stradivarius.
Well, you know, like in the the violin world, like the
Yeah.
the best would
universal.
be
Yeah. Okay. No. In Hungary, there's a locally recognized producer of dulcimer, but again, it's only limited to that part of the world.
Yes, in the back there. Yes, good question. The question was that, and I thought the same thing. It doesn't look very easy to travel with, and how do you do that? And have you had any incidents in your travels, any troubles that have come into play with your dulcimer?
The dulcimer, the upper part is the body of the dulcimer, and the lower part is the stand, and they can be separated. So I put the top part, the dulcimer itself, into a case. It's backstage, and I have a case. I check it in as a luggage, and the bottom part can be folded. So I normally carry the bottom part onto the flight as a carry-on. Sometimes they don't allow me. They force me to check it in because they say it's too big. It is big, but it's difficult to check in as a luggage. My main concerns when I checked in are two. One is damage. Sometimes it does get a little bit damaged, so I always carry some spare parts in case I need to repair it. Another is delay or lost. One cruise, I never got it for 7 days until after I got home.
So I guess you didn't do a show then.
No, I cannot sing. I cannot do comedies. So
Do you know where it went? Where your dulcimer went?
it was with Air France. I really had no idea. Of course, there's about 2 connections, so it must be kept somewhere between the 2 connections.
It took a break. Yes, took a little vacation.
Yes.
Yes, right here. When you're not traveling, where is home for you?
Toronto, Canada.
Yes, in the back. She's wondering if you ever play it with finger picks.
No, that's another type of dulcimer. Completely different. That dulcimer is much smaller. It's meant to be plucked, picked. Yeah, picked.
Kind of like an auto harp, I would imagine, too, a little bit.
Yeah. The method. Yeah, and this dulcimer is also called hammer dulcimer in America, to distinguish it from the other type of a plucked dulcimer. Only for hammering. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Do you ever give master classes in the States, or anywhere for that matter?
Oh, I have been a teacher of the dulcimer for 10 years before I left China in '93. I had been a teacher in the conservatory for 10 years. I was already an associate professor by the time I left. But I had never got a chance to teach in the States yet.
Maybe you have to hook that up. Yes, again. Just the comment was that she wanted him to know it was absolutely breathtaking and beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. She was wondering if you, since you live in Toronto, do you ever perform in Toronto or in the area there?
From time to time, yeah. Not as much as I want to, but from time to time, yeah.
Do you have a website or something?
I have been quite outdated myself, and I don't have a website, only email address.
And he does have CDs for sale, too, so you could have your own Toronto concert. Any other questions out here? Or comments? Yes? Any last thing you'd like to say about the dulcimer here? Or you don't have
Dulcimer,
to.
okay. Basically, the dulcimer is my. Now it's a very good companion of mine, and I travel to a lot of parts of the world with the dulcimer. So now I like it. Not unlike when I first started, when my father made me do it.
Yes. Well, we are. Yes. One final. Do you have a family, and do they play?
Two. I have two children, but both of them play the piano, but not that seriously. I don't force them to do music, so they practice about 1 hour a day on the piano, and I don't think they intend to be professional musicians.
Well, we are. Mr. Pingxin Xu is going to be doing hopefully an afternoon concert with just Mr. Steve Iveson, our pianist. So be looking for that since we've got many C-Days coming up. He's graciously offered to do that for us. So I'll let you know when that's happening. But please let's give a welcome here for our guest this morning. Thank you so much. Yeah, for me, the show was. I always am in the show lounge, and I rarely sit through both shows completely. I'll usually duck out to my office, but for your show, I really was over there and just entranced. I couldn't seem to go away. My favorite number was the film score number. Who wrote that piece?
To be frank, I don't know the composer. That number was recommended by my daughter.
Oh, it's a great.
Yes.
It was great. Do you know what
Yeah.
film it's from?
From something like a Disney movie.
Oh, okay.
December.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece. I really absolutely I loved it.
Oh yeah, Anastasia.
Oh, Anastasia. Oh, okay.
Anastasia,
Oh,
yes.
great.
Yes.
It was beautiful. Well, thank you again, and of course he'll be with us till Vancouver. So I'm sure he'd love for you to say hello, and that's that for right now. Of course, coming up at 10 a.m., we have the next of our Exploration Speaker Series, and Bill Cruz will be talking about the history of Russia and Europe and the history of Vladivostok and I'm going to say it wrong. Petropavlovsk, something like that. You know, the next stop. And then at 11, travel guide Susan will be in here, and she'll be starting her series about Alaska. She'll be doing some talks specifically about Alaska, and today about Alaskan explorers. So we've got a lot going on today. Get out there, enjoy the day, and thanks for coming in. And we'll be in here tomorrow morning, so come back as we say good morning, Volendam, tomorrow. All right, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for having me.